Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to unpack a super fascinating source text dealing a traditional Ayurvedic formulation. Now, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill recipe, According to the source material, it's actually a master formulation designed specifically to dramatically improve weak eyesight, clear up blurry vision, and, get this, potentially remove the need for glasses altogether. So if you're someone who spends hours staring at screens and just constantly feeling that eye strain, well, the historical knowledge we're unpacking today offers a seriously fascinating perspective.
Because, let's be real, we are living in a modern crisis of screen time. Think about it for a second. Our eyes are constantly, literally locked onto televisions, mobile phones, computers. It never stops. And that blue light, it's harsh. Plus, all that intense concentration means we actually blink far less often than we're supposed to. This creates a domino effect. Our eyes dry out, our nerves take a massive hit, and it can even cause dizziness when we look away at fast-moving objects. So today, we're analyzing the source material's traditional, entirely natural solution to these exact, highly prevalent modern symptoms.
To make all this super actionable for you, we're going to cover 4 distinct parts. 1. The blueprint. 2. The deep dive. 3. The assembly. And 4. The regimen. Stick around, because you're going to learn the exact ingredients, the precise preparation method, and the strict dosage schedule.
Right, let's kick things off with part 1, the blueprint, focusing on the core ingredients.
To build this master formulation, the source outlines 5 core elements. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is the incredibly precise geometry of the recipe. There's a strict adherence to 50-gram ratios for almost everything. We need 50 grams of almonds, and the source actually specifically prefers the Kashmiri Mamra variety if you can get your hands on it. Then, 50 grams of thick green fennel, 50 grams of melon seeds, and 50 grams of thread rock sugar, which is also known as mishri. But look at the very end of that list. Contrasting all those equal weights is an incredibly precise count for the final ingredient, exactly 20 whole black peppercorns. Not a gram measurement, but a specific physical count. Pretty cool, right?
Moving right along to part 2, the deep dive, where we look at the synergistic properties of these ingredients. So, why these specific ingredients and why in these exact amounts? Well, let's start with the almonds. On the surface, yeah, everyone knows almonds are generally good for you, but the source frames their use here as a highly targeted remedy. You see, when you have weak vision, you often get trapped in this brutal loop. You strain to see, which causes persistent headaches, which then leads to intense eye pain whenever you try to read or study. Almonds act as the specific targeted relief to break that exact cycle of reading pain and headaches. And as an added bonus, especially for students who need to be at the top of their game, the source notes that almonds act as a powerful memory booster.
Next up is thick green fennel, or SOF. Now, you might just recognize this from pickles or everyday cooking, but here, it serves a major medicinal purpose. The source emphasizes that as we age, the nerves in our eyes naturally begin to weaken, and that paves the way for conditions like cataracts. The thick green variety of fennel acts like a primary defense shield against this age-related nerve weakness. Furthermore, if you're someone who constantly suffers from red eyes, swelling right under the eyes, or that persistent annoying itch, well, the source declares this ingredient to be an absolute boon for calming that inflammation down. And that brings us to a really fascinating historical anchor in our source. The inclusion of melon seeds here isn't just some modern guess. It's rooted in deep cultural context. The source explicitly quotes the Charaka Samhita, which is literally one of the foundational, most authoritative texts of ancient Ayurveda, stating clearly that melon seeds are a boon for the eyes. This really highlights the centuries of observational science backing up this whole formulation. But what exactly do these melon seeds, or magas, actually do? Well, the source explains that they specifically combat watery eyes and, crucially, they strengthen weak eye nerves. This is where it gets incredibly applicable to daily life. Have you ever been looking out the window of a fast-moving train or watching cars speed by on the highway and suddenly just felt incredibly dizzy? That vertigo happens because weak eye nerves just can't adjust quickly enough to rapidly changing visual scenes. Melon seeds are included in this mix to strengthen those exact nerves, completely eliminating that fast-motion dizziness.
Now we arrive at those 20 whole black peppercorns. Think back to our modern crisis of screen concentration. The blue light and lack of blinking dry out our eyes and damage the nerves. So, what's the traditional Ayurvedic solution to this modern dry eye issue? Black pepper. I know, it sounds counterintuitive, but according to the source, black pepper specifically restores moisture to the eye. It is an absolute powerhouse, noted for preventing cataracts, stopping the onset of glaucoma, which is referred to as kalapani, and even curing terrifying symptoms like seeing colored circles in the sun or black spots when you close your eyes.
Okay, part 3, the assembly. Let's look at the precise preparation instructions. Having all these amazing ingredients means absolutely nothing if you don't prepare them correctly. So the crucial point is that preparation requires specific physical and sensory actions. You can't just toss everything into a blender and hope for the best. The source gives some really strict warnings here. First, you absolutely must crush the almonds in a mortar and pestle before grinding them. Otherwise, those hard whole almonds are going to completely destroy your mixer blades. Second, you've got to dry roast the fennel in a pan on a very low flame just until it turns a light pinkish brown. Third, the black pepper must also be dry roasted on a low flame for exactly 2 minutes. Why the low heat? Well, because this gentle roasting activates the natural oils inside the fennel and the pepper, which massively multiplies the power of the final mixture.
Once you've successfully activated those oils without burning them, which is key, the next steps are pretty straightforward. First, you must let the roasted fennel and pepper cool completely on a plate. Do not, under any circumstances, grind them while they're hot. Second, grind your crushed almonds, the cooled fennel, the melon seeds, and the pepper in your mixer to create fine powders. Third, separately grind your 50 grams of thread rock sugar, the mishri, into a powder as well. And finally, thoroughly blend all these separate powders together in a bowl and store your final master formulation in an airtight jar to preserve its potency.
Almost there. Part 4. The regimen. Let's talk about the 40-day Ayurvedic cycle. 10. This is the critical dosage number you need to remember. According to the source, you must take exactly 10 grams of the powdered mixture at one time. In practical, everyday terms, that equates to 2 full, standard tablespoons of the powder.
But wait, you don't just eat the powder dry. The source states that the powder actually needs a warm catalyst to ensure maximum efficacy. So immediately after eating your 10 grams of the mixture, you must follow it up with a cup of slightly warm Desi cow's milk. The source heavily elevates this specific type of milk, literally calling it absolute nectar for the eyes. The warm milk activates the powdered herbs in your system, acting as the perfect delivery vehicle. And this brilliantly illustrates the final piece of the puzzle, which is the cycle itself, 40 days. The Ayurvedic texts dictate a strict consumption schedule. You take this 10-gram dose with warm milk every single day for 40 consecutive days. Then you stop entirely for 10 days to let your body rest and process everything. After that 10-day break, you start the 40-day cycle all over again. The source emphasizes that because this formulation is entirely natural, there are 0 side effects. That means you can repeat this 40 days on, 10 days off cycle indefinitely, right up until your vision is fully restored.
So, we've explored the blueprint of ratios, we've dived deep into the targeted ancient wisdom behind almonds, fennel, melon seeds, and black pepper, and we've walked through the exact assembly and 40-day regimen. So, the final question is simply this. Are you ready to gather these ingredients? Activate those natural oils, start your own 40-day cycle, and take a structured, historical step toward reclaiming your vision? The knowledge is now in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and honestly, I cannot wait to guide you through our next fascinating topic.